Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I've got some new footage and information here to share. This video mainly being about Assateague Island, National Seashore, Barrier Island on the Maryland and Virginia coast. We visited while we were staying in Frontier Town. So we were in Maryland, a very short drive, but that's why we essentially stayed in Frontier Town. They have state campground and national campground there at Assateague Island, but all booked up, of course, and we weren't able to get in. So next best thing. But this National Seashore, if you're not familiar, is famous for the wild horses and the beaches. They have really great beaches as well, and I guess a bunch of good bird watching. Didn't really get into any of that, but there's a visitor center. And the Maryland side where we were, before you go into the National Seashore, I understand there's also one in Virginia. We didn't get a chance to partake in that one. I'm sure it's probably just similar. Great visitor center, very large. It seemed very popular, a lot of traffic. Now we were there on I can't recall if it was a Saturday or Sunday, but it was a weekend, of course. But the visitor center itself has a ton of exhibits. They have some aquariums there, and then we were super lucky just by chance that when we showed up, and then like 10-15 minutes later they had this what they called, I think, a touch and learn experience for the kids, and they had like a touch pool with some of the different sea animals and so forth. They had some clams. I think they had some snails in there as well. I think they had one or two whelks, which was kind of cool. And then they had some horseshoe crabs, which is usually the star of the show. But they actually let the kids, there's some rules, but they let the kids hold everything, which I thought was pretty cool. I figured it'd be more of just kind of a 2-finger touch on top, but they were actually holding them out of the water above the tank. My son loved it. But even the young lady who was putting on the touch and learn session, she was great, very informative. She did a great job. She was with the kids and answering questions. My son had his hand up and loves to talk about sea creatures. She did great, and they were pretty busy and very informative, and I thought we just lucked out. So if you can, call ahead or get their schedule to see about that if you have young ones that are interested in the sea creatures. It was a little bit, I think without that it would have been a little bit more not as memorable, I guess, is how I'd put it. We'd be in and out, and it's just another nature center. We try to get to all of them that we can when we go somewhere new. But yeah, they did a great job there. So then when you leave the visitor center, it's just a short drive over the bridge, and you're on the island. And instantly when we're on the island, now there was a lot of traffic, it wasn't far. We planned to go into the National Seashore to the beach, or one of the beaches. I believe they have a few, but instantly is when we got over to the island, we started seeing wild horses. And there, like I mentioned earlier, there's a state park and then a National Seashore. And I understand that they both have campgrounds. I don't know much about either one. We didn't get to go into the state park. Right when you go over the bridge, I think if you stay straight, that's entrance into the state park. And then we hang a right, and that takes you to the National Seashore. And it's long. I mean, there's a lot of seashore there. And there are one lane in, one lane out. And we were pretty busy, traffic-wise, of course, on the weekends. Traffic to get in, I don't think it was very far in distance. It was just we were creeping 5-10 mile per hour and then stopping, and then we were backed up, and there was a lot of horses. So two parts. Number one, it was causing probably part of the slowdown, but it was cool to stop and take a look at them when we were stopped. And these horses, they go where they want. I mean, there's horse poop all over the place. It is what it is. It's part of, this is where they live, and they go where they want. And you're not supposed to get too close. There's signs all over the park not to get within 40 foot of them. They're also talking about the horses will bite you, so don't. We didn't see any of that. I did get a chance to see some videos on YouTube prior to going. There's some pretty comical ones out there with tourists not listening and getting too close, and the wild horses giving them a kick on the beach or something like that. So there's some comical videos out there.
He was kicked by a horse.
Oh no.
But back to the horses. I meant to mention, so the traffic was because the horses, but it was also once we got to the National Seashore gate, they were trying to get people through, but it just wasn't flowing. I think a lot of people weren't sure where they were, what they wanted to do. They had some day passes for sale to go to the beach, and I understand there was some other stuff further past that gate. We ended up going to that beach there, but we have an American the Beautiful Pass, which is like the National Parks Pass you can get for an annual membership. It saves you a ton of money if you plan on seeing more than like 2 or even more than 1, I think. So we were able to get in with that, which was great. And then we go to this beach right near Board, but I want to talk more about the horses. So they're pretty awesome. First of all, I didn't even know before we started researching this place, a few months back or whatever, that there was wild horses in Maryland and Virginia. But they are, I guess they're feral animals. So what that means is that they're actually descendants from domestic animals that have reverted back to the wild state. And there's some different stories, I think some different opinions. I don't know if anyone knows 100% exactly where they came from, but some of the local folklore states there was a shipwreck just off the coast of Virginia. The horses swam to the coast. And where we were in Maryland, I understand there's a separate herd in the Virginia side. We just weren't a part of that where we were at. But the folklore is that they swam to the island, and that's where they've been. And they're fairly tough. I guess they have their own way of hunkering down some of the storms, and they handle the cold in the winter, and they eat and they know what not to drink in terms of the salt water, and they've been around, but it's pretty crazy. I mean, they're just kind of roaming around. We never got out of the vehicle to try to get close to them by any means, but we have some pretty good footage I'll put up here nearby the truck, and yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And then once, as I mentioned, we got to that National Seashore entrance. There's a large parking lot and a beach right there, and we were lucky to find a parking space. There were people parking all over the place, including up on the grass and so forth. I can't call it much grass. There's a lot of cactus and different types of plants like that would stick you, that would look like grass, but packed. Luckily we found a spot. And then, I mean, you got to watch where you're walking. There's horse droppings here and there. They're on the boardwalk walking into the beach. I didn't see any horses at the beach while we were there. I wish we would have. I was looking around for them. The beach was packed. And I guess for good reason. I mean, the waves were pretty intense, crashing the beach. Kids loved it. Everybody's running out and getting slammed around. My son loved it. They also, actually, I forgot to mention, when we come in from the parking lot, they had like a full camp store set up, and I guess it might have been part of the National Park campground or how they worked it, but what you would expect, they had snacks and drinks and firewood for sale, bags of ice for sale, all in the front of this the beach itself, right outside the parking lot, which is cool. But back to the beach, super cool. Probably one of the busiest beaches I've been to, especially as how long it took us to get into it. But the waves were, when we went to the visitor center, there's a whole section that they talk about the shipwrecks off that coast and how the water, crashes, and a lot of ships got stranded and then crashed. But I can see it. The waves are probably the most intense that we've been, non-storm related, but just typical waves, daily waves hitting the shore, were probably the most intense of a public beach that we've been to so far. But very cool experience. I'd highly recommend it. I don't know. I'm sure there's some other places you can see some wild horses, but I don't know many other here on the East Coast like that, besides this Maryland, Virginia National Seashore at Assateague. But I highly recommend. I appreciate you watching. I have some more videos coming out here soon. I'm cutting some footage. We end up staying at Tall Pines in Virginia that overlapped Hurricane Aaron. Everyone's fine. We luckily didn't hit landfall, as we know, but we were there right on the bay. It was pretty awesome, and I'll get that video out as soon as I can. Thanks.